Welcome to SJS Arts. So today I'm gonna talk about some of my influences and mentors that I had in my childhood and teenage years that helped me to get into art. So there are some people that I'm gonna mention in this video, but also some things that made me more interested in art. And much of my journey was me kind of discovering art by myself, but I cannot kind of understate the influence that some people and some things have had on my journey. And by the way, if anybody wants to do a response video to this and talk about your influences and mentors, feel free to do that. I think Sina Art Therapy mentioned to me when I mentioned this topic to him that he might do a response to this, so hopefully he will do that, but also other people can do it if you want. Yeah. But I'm gonna start with possibly my earliest influence, which is my father. So my father was a big movie buff, although he had a very vanilla taste, so he wasn't watching like Tarkovsky or Godard, but he had a huge VHS collection and a decent sized DVD collection as well. And also he was a music fan. And he also had a very fairly vanilla taste in music, but he still like listened to different genres and stuff, so he didn't have just like one genre that he listened to, but he listened to rock and pop music and even some of the classic metal stuff. Yeah, so he was very important to me in my journey to discover my love for movies and also music. And he also very much encouraged me to get into movies and music and things like this. And I also started to play guitar when I was very young. And my father was very encouraging when it came to that as well. And he always asked me about it and stuff like that. So he was very important. So I discovered lots of my childhood favorite films through my father when I was browsing his VHS collection, and I watched films sometimes on my own and sometimes with my father. Yeah, and that's where my kind of hobbies relating to collecting came from as well, because I've always loved collecting. And I think my father was also kind of responsible for my early interest in Japanese culture, because he was very encouraging when it came to collecting these things. Pokemon cards. So this is Rapidash. This is one of my favorite Pokemons. Suicune. This is Suicune X. This one I actually got from one of my friends. Or not a friend, but when I was like 3 years old, there were a couple of guys who were like 5 years older than me, and they stole all of my Pokemon cards. Which is really sad, because those were the base set stuff. So they would be very valuable today if they were in good condition, but I never got them back. But then I think they regretted like years down the line, so then they gave me some other Pokemon cards like this one, and this is one of my favorites that I have. Then I have some random Typhlosion card as well. Yeah, but I have like a couple thousand Pokemon cards at least. But I'm not gonna show them all, but I'm just showing how my father kind of influenced lots of the things that I still care about today. And my father was also reading lots of the kind of Donald Duck comics and other comics. So I got into comics as well. And then I got into manga, which kind of furthered my interest in Japanese culture. Then I got into Dragon Ball Z and stuff. And then now later on life I've got them back into manga this year, and I really love anime as well. I'm now watching Neon Genesis Evangelion, for example, finally. So yeah, my father was a big part of all of those kind of interests starting when I was very young. Yeah. And he also introduced me to many different types of music, and he was always willing to listen to even stuff that I only liked that maybe he didn't like. Yeah, like Slipknot and stuff that I liked as a kid. I don't like Slipknot anymore, but yeah, he was very open-minded with that stuff, so it helped a lot. Yeah. But then I think this TV show is also very responsible for many things in my life, and it's the OC, which I mentioned in like every other video recently. But the OC, like this kind of was one of the things that really made me want to go to the university. Of course, they talk about here, like they are the private school kids that talk about going to the good colleges, the Ivy League and stuff, and you see how well spoken all these teenagers are and how they are interested in like Krzysztof Kieslowski and Gustav Lopez, Madame Bovary. So I kind of got the false idea from show like this and some other things that all people who go into university are like art lovers and they love to go to like Fellini retrospectives and stuff like that. I mean, in Dawson's Creek they do talk about the Fellini retrospective, although I watched Dawson's Creek way later on, but I'm just saying that I think these types of shows really give you kind of a false idea what the university experience is like, because here you have so many kind of intellectual types and art-loving types in this, but in my experience most people in university are there to just get a degree, to get a job, and they don't give a fuck about art or philosophy or things like that. So that was kind of a shock to me when I went to the university, because I thought that people would be like me, but then they weren't. Although now when I'm studying in Finland my master's degree, here I've actually met some people who are like that intellectual type, like very randomly. So here I've met some of them, but when I was studying in London, I didn't met any of them, and I had to kind of mask my interests because I didn't want to talk about them, because it's so awkward to start talking about Tarkovsky when people are all about Harry Potter. Yeah. And also, in my teenage years, I really wanted to move to the US, and a big reason why that was the OC. I don't want to move to the US anymore, but then I really wanted to. But then as I realized that I would never have the money to move to the US because it's so expensive, of course, and I didn't have the grades to get like a scholarship or anything. I kind of became a good student when I got to the university, but in high school I was a mediocre student. Yeah. But then I moved to the UK, so that was kind of my second choice. So I kind of thought that I think that my goal to move overseas came from the OC to a large degree. Yeah. And there are so many things that the OC has changed in my life and stuff, so I will probably make more videos about the OC and other soap operas, because they've had such a huge impact on my life. Yeah. Then I already mentioned some of the manga and anime stuff, but my father again divorced my mother when I was 4 years old, so I went to my father's place in the weekends, and then my father met another woman, and they had a relationship for a few years, but the other woman had a son who was a year older than me, or 2 years older than me, and he also watched movies and played video games and stuff, so we hanged out a lot, and he was also a fan of Dragon Ball, so I thought that I think that I got the interest in Dragon Ball from there, like originally. But then my father was always so kind that he always kind of recorded like TV programs and movies from the TV when they were on, so he recorded me Dragon Ball Z episodes and stuff, so that's how I kind of had access to lots of stuff, because my father recorded them. Yeah, so those are some of the like very early childhood influences. And then in terms of music also, like I said, I played the guitar, so I took guitar lessons for a few years, and I had some really nice teachers, and they definitely influenced me when they introduced me to bands like Porcupine Tree and Opeth, Dream Theater, that I still like to this day. So that was very, very cool as well. Yeah. But then in my teenage years, I had a couple of different courses in high school that really influenced me. Even though again, I didn't take studying in high school very seriously. Like I said, I was a mediocre student due to various reasons. Again, I was very lazy, and then I had a friend who was even lazier than me, and he kind of influenced me in a bad way in that way, because of course if your friends don't want to study, you kind of don't want to study either. So yeah, I really regret not studying harder back then, but yeah, what can you do? I'm glad that I kind of have taken studying more seriously in the university and getting good grades now. Yeah. But there were two courses. So there was one history class. It was about cultural history and art history and stuff like that, and even some philosophy in there. But there I kind of discovered my love for architecture and also painting. Like there was one page that had a couple of Salvador Dali paintings that kind of really got me interested in painting. And then in the same year I visited Berlin, Germany, went to the Gemälde gallery there and saw lots of great paintings from Rembrandt and Rubens and I think Caravaggio and other great painters, so that kind of furthered my interest. And of course in Berlin you have lots of great architecture as well, which added to my interest in architecture as well. Like the Berlin Dome, for example, is an utterly beautiful building. Of course there is lots of very ugly architecture there as well that was built in the 20th century, but lots of great architecture as well, and I loved Berlin. Yeah. But so that art history class was very important for me. Yeah. And I've gotten more and more into architecture and painting as I have gotten older. Although with architecture I don't like really know that much about in the end about like the different styles and stuff, but one of my favorite things in life is to go to like different cities and really pay attention to how the cities have been like built and what type of architecture they have and stuff like that. So it's more like an aesthetic interest rather than like cracking the books and is this Gothic architecture or is this or that. Yeah. Although I want to learn more about that too in the future, and I know some things about it already. And then the other course that I had in high school was one literature class, so it was about like literature history. And I had a great teacher for that. He was a very demanding teacher, but he was also very passionate about literature. And I kind of got really interested in it. And of course the TV shows like the OC had kind of already put that idea in my head that good people and smart people read the great works of literature and stuff like that. So I already had that thing in my head. But then in this course I really got interested in it. And I read some Dostoevsky and Hemingway and stuff, because we kind of got to choose like a couple of classics that we would read. So I read one of Dostoevsky's lesser known works, The Double, because it was shorter. I didn't want to read like a 1000-page book in that course. And then I read Hemingway's Old Man and the Sea. Yeah. Then we read some like short stories as well. Like there was Hemingway and Edgar Allan Poe and stuff. But he talked very passionately about Dante's Divine Comedy, and that's when I got my interest for Dante. Although I really struggled with this when I tried to read it, but I'm gonna go back to it someday. But it's very interesting. And then he talked about, of course, the Iliad and Odyssey, and I've read the Iliad and I loved the Iliad, and Odyssey I'm still waiting to read, but of course I know about it. But yeah, that kind of furthered my interest in classic literature and literature in general. And then after that I've been reading the classics on and off. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for that teacher as well. Yeah. Then of course there was some of like online interests and influences. So there was the Flickpick and Chris Stuckman, the Film Buff's bucket list. And I even watched some Jeremy Jahns videos, although I never was a huge fan of his channel, to be honest, but I did watch them. Awesome-tacular. I'm actually planning to do a bracket battle video about the awesome tacular films of Jeremy Jahns. So I think that's the highest rating that he can give to a movie. So I might do a bracket battle of that soon. But those online YouTube film critics were really important for me. They kind of showed me that directors are very important. For example, that I hadn't realized that as a kid that there are these things like directors who are kind of in control of much of the filmmaking process. So watching Chris Tuckman and Flickwick talking about Nolan and Spielberg and Tarantino made me realize that directors are very important, and then I slowly and surely went into that rabbit hole of trying to pay attention to like who is the director, who directed this film and that film. And then I got into Kubrick and Hitchcock and Tarantino, Nolan, Spielberg, and then slowly but surely I got into more difficult and more interesting stuff and world cinema as well. And then I kind of left those big film critics behind because they didn't really talk about the stuff that I was getting interested in at that moment in my life. Yeah, but I cannot understate the importance of these YouTube film critics for me, because they really helped me to discover my love for film, like in a more deeper way and not just in the way that let's watch a film and enjoy it. Yeah, and then of course there were also many like smaller channels that helped me, like Crazy Jason, howdy friendos. Yeah, he was of course like, or he is Flickwick's friend, but he had also the interest in like Criterion films and stuff, so he was more of a true cinephile. So through that I kind of discovered the Criterion collection as well, and through other videos. Yeah, and then there was no looking back. And the IMDb 250 was very important to me at that point as well. And I got lots of recommendations from that. Although at first I was just looking at the 90s, 80s and 2000s like Movie Pro classics from there, and I started with that stuff, but it was a good place to start. My journey has been very gradual and slow but also very fulfilling and logical when I look at it now in retrospect. Yeah, because I see sometimes in like Letterboxd people starting with Tarkovsky, but I think it's good to start with Tarantino and Nolan and people like that, and then work your way through like the better artists of cinema history. Yeah, but those were some of the influences in my early life, and in my teenage years of course I have many influences these days. Even you, my viewers, help me with my journey with your recommendations and your great comments, so I want to say to you guys that I'm very grateful for you and your comments. Yeah, people like Tony and Cine Art Therapy and Ronin Nazarin, Chris Mohan, Dutch Film Buff, Richard, many other people have been very important for my journey as well, and I'm glad that you keep encouraging me to do more content, and I love to talk to you guys in the comment section, so keep the comments coming no matter what the comments are, and let's continue discussing these beautiful art forms and all they have to offer to us and our emotional enrichment and intellectual enrichment. Yeah, that didn't sound pretentious at all. Yeah, but I think that was the video. Of course, there are many things that we could talk about, influences and mentors, and influences and mentors are very important, and they can guide us in a positive or even in a negative way. But by the way, my intention in this video was to only talk about the positive influences. I had many negative influences as well, mostly the friends that I had in my earlier life. Yeah, but anyway, I want to forget that stuff, so I'm not gonna talk about that. Yeah, and I guess through my YouTube channel I'm even mentoring some people myself now. Yeah, and I've been really humbled lately when I've seen like people actually watching films and listening to music that I have recommended to them. That's like the best feeling ever, especially when the artists that I'm recommending are usually more unknown stuff So it always saddens me that those are so unknown that they don't have more fans. So it really makes my day when I see that those artists, filmmakers, musicians, whatever, have got the new fans. So that's very, very nice, and I'm very grateful about that. Very humbled about that. So thank you guys. But anyway, thanks for watching. Look out for more videos. Don't drink all the coke. Sayonara and arigato gozaimasu.